Pull out a single strand of your hair right now. Look at it closely. If it is gray or white, I want you to understand something that might completely change how you think about that strand forever. That hair is not gray simply because you are getting old. It is not gray only because of your genetics, and it is not gray just because of stress, although stress absolutely plays a role. That hair is gray because the pigment factory inside the follicle that produced it has shut down. And it shut down for one primary reason. It ran out of raw materials. Let me say that again because it is the single most important sentence in this entire video. Your hair turns gray when the cells responsible for producing pigment no longer have the specific nutrients they need to do their job. Not because they are broken, not because they are dead, not because aging has destroyed them beyond repair. They simply do not have what they need. And here is what should make you pause. The 3 nutrients responsible for keeping those pigment factories running are almost never tested for by standard medical practitioners. Your doctor has probably never checked your levels. Your dermatologist has probably never mentioned them. The entire conversation around gray hair in mainstream medicine begins and ends with one word: genetics, as if your DNA is a final verdict for your hair color and there's nothing you can do about it. That is incomplete science, and today I am going to give you the complete picture. My name is Dr. Mandell. I am going to take you inside the hair follicle down to the cellular level and show you exactly how hair pigment is made, exactly which nutrients that process depends on, and exactly which 5 foods deliver those nutrients in the most bioavailable forms. This is not speculation. This is published biochemistry, and once you understand it, you will never look at a gray hair the same way again. Let us get into it. Inside your hair follicle, the tiny factory on your scalp, before I reveal these 3 nutrients, I need to take you on a journey inside your own scalp. Because until you understand what is actually happening inside a hair follicle, the nutrient information will not fully make sense. Every hair on your head grows from a structure called a hair follicle. Think of the follicle as a tiny, self-contained manufacturing plant embedded in your scalp. At the very base of this plant, in a region called the hair bulb, 2 types of cells work side by side. The first type are called keratinocytes. These are the construction workers. They produce keratin, a tough fibrous protein that makes up the physical structure of the hair shaft. Keratin is what gives your hair strength, flexibility, and resilience. Every time you brush your hair and it bends instead of snapping, you can thank keratin. The second type of cell is where the real story begins. These are melanocytes. These are the painters. Their job is to produce a pigment called melanin and inject it into the keratinocytes while the hair strand is being built. Every strand of hair gets its color from melanin deposited during construction. Brown hair, black hair, red hair, blonde hair, all determined by the type, amount, and distribution of melanin. Now here is where it gets fascinating. Melanin is not something the melanocytes have stored in a warehouse ready to go. It has to be manufactured from scratch on demand through a complex biochemical assembly line, and that assembly line requires very specific raw materials and very specific enzymes to function. The master switch of hair color. The process begins with an amino acid called tyrosine. An amino acid is simply a building block of protein. Tyrosine is the raw material for melanin production. Inside the melanocyte, tyrosine is fed into an enzyme called tyrosinase. Tyrosine is the master enzyme of pigmentation. If melanin production were a factory, tyrosinase would be the foreman flipping the switch to start the machinery. It converts tyrosine into intermediate compounds that eventually become eumelanin, dark brown or black pigment, pheomelanin, red or yellow pigment. The ratio of these 2 determines your natural hair color. But here is the crucial point. Tyrosinase cannot function alone. It requires helper molecules called cofactors, physically present in its active site. Without these cofactors, the enzyme sits there like a car with a full engine but no fuel. Everything is intact. Nothing happens. And this is where the 3 hidden nutrients enter the story. When they are depleted, pigment production slows. When they are severely depleted, pigment production stops. And when pigment production stops, the hair grows out gray or white. The bleach inside your hair follicle. Now we need to talk about something you probably never connected to your hair color. Hydrogen peroxide, yes. The same hydrogen peroxide sitting in your medicine cabinet. Your body produces small amounts of hydrogen peroxide naturally during energy production inside cells. Normally, this hydrogen peroxide is neutralized by an enzyme called catalase. Catalase breaks hydrogen peroxide down into harmless water and oxygen. No damage, no problem. But as we age, something changes. Catalase activity in the hair follicle declines. At the same time, oxidative stress increases. The result? Hydrogen peroxide accumulates. And hydrogen peroxide is a bleaching agent. It literally bleaches your hair from the inside out. Research published in the FASEB journal demonstrated that gray hair follicles contain dramatically elevated levels of hydrogen peroxide. The melanocytes were not dead, they were alive, but functionally disabled by oxidative damage. Imagine trying to paint while someone is spraying bleach into your workspace. That is what your melanocytes experience when antioxidant defenses fail. Now the question becomes, why do those antioxidant defenses fail? This is where nutrient deficiency enters the picture. The three critical nutrients. 1. Copper. The key to the pigment enzyme. Without copper, melanin production is biochemically impossible. Tyrosinase, the master enzyme, requires copper atoms in its active site. No copper, no melanin. It is that simple. Think of copper as the key that unlocks the pigment-making machine. And here is the frustrating part. Copper is rarely tested in standard blood panels. You can be deficient and never know it. Even more concerning, high-dose zinc supplements, commonly taken for immunity, can block copper absorption. Zinc and copper compete in the gut. Too much zinc can quietly drain copper levels over time. Copper also supports superoxide dismutase, an antioxidant enzyme, lysyl oxidase, which maintains connective tissue around the follicle. Proper blood supply to the hair bulb. In other words, copper keeps both the paint machine and the factory infrastructure functioning. Did you know that soil depletion has reduced copper levels in modern crops compared to decades ago? Your grandparents likely consume more copper from the same foods than we do today. 2. Iron and selenium, the antioxidant defenders. Remember catalase, the enzyme that neutralizes hydrogen peroxide. Catalase requires iron, specifically iron in a heme group, the same structure found in hemoglobin. No iron, no functional catalase. Hydrogen peroxide accumulates, melanocytes get bleached. Iron deficiency is the most common nutrient deficiency worldwide. Even mild subclinical deficiency without anemia can impair catalase activity. Studies in the International Journal of Trichology have shown lower ferritin levels in individuals with premature graying. Ferritin reflects stored iron, but iron does not work alone. Selenium powers another antioxidant enzyme, glutathione peroxidase. Think of catalase and glutathione peroxidase as two guards protecting your melanocytes. Iron fuels one guard. Selenium fuels the other. If both are weakened, oxidative stress overwhelms the system. Selenium also supports thyroid hormone activation. Low thyroid function is strongly associated with premature graying. And here is something most people do not realize. Your thyroid contains more selenium per gram than any other organ in your body. That tells you how important it is. 3. Vitamin B12, the stem cell protector. Now we go even deeper. Melanocytes do not last forever. At the end of each hair growth cycle, new melanocytes must be produced from melanocyte stem cells in a region called the hair bulge. For stem cells to divide, they must replicate DNA, and DNA replication requires vitamin B12. B12 is essential for an enzyme called methionine synthase. Without B12, DNA synthesis stalls. Stem cells cannot divide properly. With each hair cycle, fewer melanocytes are produced. Pigment fades. Eventually, the hair grows out white. But B12 deficiency also causes homocysteine to accumulate. Elevated homocysteine increases hydrogen peroxide production. So B12 deficiency reduces melanocyte replacement, increases oxidative damage, a devastating double hit. Research in the Journal of Clinical and Diagnostic Research reported cases of partial repigmentation after correcting B12 deficiency. Let that sink in. Partial repigmentation. Gray strands darkening after restoring a nutrient. This challenges the idea that gray is always irreversible. And here is a secret most seniors do not know. Up to 20% of adults over 60 have some degree of B12 deficiency, often without classic symptoms. Acid-reducing medications further impair B12 absorption. So even if you eat enough, you may not absorb enough. The 5 foods that deliver these nutrients. Now, let us make this practical. You do not need complicated supplement stacks. You need strategic foods. 1. Beef liver. The most nutrient-dense food on the planet. In just 3 ounces, beef liver delivers. Massive amounts of copper, extremely high B12, bioavailable iron, meaningful selenium, all in one serving. If you dislike liver, soak it in milk before cooking. Blend small pieces into ground beef. Use desiccated liver capsules if necessary. Once per week is enough. 2. Oysters. Oysters provide copper, B12, iron, selenium, high-quality protein, including tyrosine. Canned smoked oysters are convenient and affordable. Once or twice per month makes a difference. 3. Sardines. Small, powerful, and underrated. Sardines provide B12, heme, iron, selenium, omega-3 fatty acids, coenzyme Q10 supports cellular energy. They also reduce inflammation, which protects melanocyte stem cells 2 to 3 times per week. Simple. Open the can and eat. 4. Shiitake mushrooms. Shiitake mushrooms are the best plant-based copper source. They also provide selenium and immune-modulating compounds. Sauté them, add to soups, or use dried versions. 5. Eggs. Egg yolks provide copper, B12, selenium, iron, biotin, choline. Vitamin D. Eggs are your daily foundation. 2 to 3 whole eggs per day. Do not discard the yolk. That golden center is where the magic lives. A simple weekly rotation. Here is how you make this effortless. Daily, 2 to tea. 3 whole eggs weekly. Sardines 2 to 3 times. Shiitake mushrooms 3 to 4 times. Beef liver once. Oysters once or twice per month. Consistency over perfection. You are not chasing over materials. Gray hair is not a life sentence. It is a signal that the pigment factories in your hair follicles have been running on empty. Now you know what they need. Copper for the enzyme, iron and selenium for the defenses. And 5 foods that deliver all of it. This is Dr. Mandell. Thank you for watching. Share this with someone who needs to hear it and subscribe so you do not miss the next.